Oh no, an error occurred. Try again. Oh
Well,
no.
I'm seeing that it's live though.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
huh. Hold on. I have error occurring. Maybe
Interesting.
you're just live. Oh, there it is. It says live in the top left corner. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I'm TJ Whitehead, Power is Taken Not Given, joined by always by the excellent John Cooper from Counterpoint Politics. How you doing today?
Glad to be here, TJ. I'm doing great. We're going to have a wonderful show, despite the fact that we do not have a guest today, and we might be winging it a little bit. So we're putting that caveat out there now so that we overcome your low expectations.
Yeah, no one will have us. Well, what's going on? You know, we think we're a couple of cool guys and people like to be with us, and we put out an invitation and people are like, hey, how about you guys go F yourselves? We got better things to do than hang out with John and TJ on Thursday evening. So I don't know what's going on, Kyle. We got one friend out there. If the left wing has 1 million fans, Kyle is one of them. If the left wing has one fan, it is Kyle. If the left wing has 0 fans, Kyle is dead. So we appreciate Kyle sticking around. Didn't you say you had a guest? Yeah, so we did. And I contacted her yesterday about the topics, and she said she wasn't feeling well, that she wouldn't be able to make it. She rescheduled for next month, but it was kind of last minute. So that happens sometimes. We've actually been pretty lucky. Ever since we started doing 3 or 1 guest instead of 2, I can't think of more than a couple of times when we've had cancellations, honestly.
I think this is for the past about year that we've been doing it like this. Or I guess it's been a little less than a year, but still, we've probably only done
most of this year.
Yeah,
at least, yeah.
We've
It's
only
like
done a
February.
show just us, maybe 3 times.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
2 of them were in the early days when we were kind of scrambling to figure out the new format. So yeah. I've been pretty happy with our guests so far, and if Kyle, if you ever want to do some admin work, you can be our guest.
Kyle says, if I'm dead, I'll message you from the grave to apologize for missing your shows. Thank you, Kyle. We do appreciate it. We're doing our best out here, and it's I like it when the show goes really well and unexpectedly. So we'll see what happens here. What do we want to cover today first, John? Which topic we want to talk about?
So I'm thinking we should start with or actually, let's start with, because they all kind of are election impact stories.
Okay.
But the least election impacty story, I think, is the Trump and Russia one. Because I think, well, you could argue, that it has some impact.
It won't, but it should.
It won't. But I think that, it was surprising to me, because when I saw this story, and we're going to get to what exactly it is, I was like, oh, whoop-de-doo, much ado about nothing. And I still think that. But there's so much meat to this story. It is quite funny, and I want to talk about it. So Trump is once again in potential legal trouble by violating what is known as the Logan Act. Now, will this actually put him in legal trouble? No. The Logan Act was made in the 1700s. And there has never been a conviction on the Logan Act. There's ever only been 2 prosecutions. Both were in the 1800s. So this is one of those laws that are on the books, which politicians will sometimes throw around, and it sounds all official and scary, but it's just a complete nothing burger. It's like one of those laws where it's illegal to be in a bathtub with an alligator in the state of one of those weird laws that are on the books that's never actually come into play. But there's a lot of fun to this story. So what happened? So the Logan Act is a law that says that a U.S. citizen cannot negotiate with a foreign leader against the current U.S. policy. And Donald Trump clearly has talked with foreign leaders as a U.S. citizen, not in his capacity as president. And this one specifically is talking about Vladimir Putin, which there was allegations in a new book called War from Bob Woodward, which detailed conversations that Trump had with Vladimir Putin, some of them including sending him COVID tests during the height of the pandemic when Americans couldn't get their hands on COVID tests. So that is the intro to this story, and there's a couple other fun details. But I talked to introduce it a little while. TJ, what were your thoughts when you first heard about these allegations?
So yeah, I first heard about him yesterday, the day before, something like that, pretty recently when I heard that Trump had apparently sent COVID tests to Putin. And since Republicans love Vladimir Putin now, I wonder if they like him less now that he believes COVID is real. Because how are they gonna they got to keep trying to square this circle of COVID is real, COVID is fake. It's also a bioweapon. It was also engineered to not hurt Chinese or Jewish people, whatever nonsense they believe. But what jumped out to me when I was reading about this, and you had mentioned it, was Bob Woodward wrote another book. How many? I'd like to take a poll of everyone I know, how many books by Bob Woodward they have read. I haven't cracked open one, not one. But the guy must have written a dozen books by now. I feel like he does it every couple of years. He wrote another one about the Trump White House. It was all the recordings and stuff that he had from President Trump, and he just never stopped.
2022. That was like 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, I was like, who was actually reading this shit? But with the thing with him and Putin, I mean, yeah, of course, because I was reading it, and it said in the article that I was looking at that a lot of times people were trading or handing out COVID tests to foreign dignitaries and foreign leaders because there were a lot of limited supplies. And I said, you know what? On the surface, that actually seems, I understand that. I get if I'm the president of a nation and I'm talking to another president and both our nations are in short supply, but he has zero, yeah, I can hook him up with one, but it's Vladimir Putin. It's Vladimir Putin. The guy that Trump pretends that he has nothing to do with, that they're not buddy-buddy and everything. Honestly, I have a hard time actually figuring out what their relationship is. I don't really know. I really can't tell you because I don't think Trump is all on board with everything Putin does, but he does seem very friendly to him. But I couldn't exactly tell you everything about what's going on there. But
I can explain this relationship.
Oh, let's go.
Pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You have someone who is a former Soviet spy who's trained in the arts of espionage and manipulation, who has been granted access to the most easily manipulated world leader of all time. And that is the relationship.
Yeah.
Plays him like a fiddle. That's it. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Could you imagine how easy it would be? Oh, there was what's the guy's name? He's a comedian named Andrew something. He's got weird hair and the little mustache.
Oh, he just went on his podcast.
Yeah. I can't remember his last name. But there was the video you're talking about where Trump went on the podcast and everything. The entire time they're laughing. Andrew Schultz. Thanks. They're laughing at Donald Trump the entire time. There was this really funny moment where he talks about, I went on to Face the Nation, and he goes, the show, it's called Face the Nation. They spent millions of dollars in the name Face the Nation. I say deface the nation. And Andrew Schultz was like, oh, I didn't know. Okay, I was wondering why you were saying that. They were just mocking him the whole time, but they were being really chummy and really complimentary to him, in a disingenuous way, but Trump was too dumb to catch it. I was like, oh man, Trump would be so easy. He'd be so easy to just string along anytime you wanted. So yeah, that's a good, Putin's definitely doing that.
And the thing is, there aren't enough, people around Trump aren't going to tell him that he was being made fun of the whole time. They're just going to be like, yeah, no,
they loved you.
They loved you, bro. It is really funny to see how easily manipulated he is. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout our stories today, but it is incredible to see the extent to which the fascist morality of what advances the interests of my in-group is morally correct and what doesn't is morally wrong just permeates the entire Trump relationship with him.
Yes.
Because Republicans literally want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to call Russia an enemy because there's nothing they love more than rallying against an enemy. But also they see Putin as a strong man, and that's a good thing because Trump says it is. And they do both at this. Depending on what the news cycle is, they are either for or against Russia. They flip-flop all the fucking time. There is no consistency to the Republican position on Russia, and it is very weird.
Man, what do Republicans even believe anymore? This is what's so frustrating, that it wasn't that long ago, just a few years ago, that you could pinpoint this list of what the Republicans stood for and what they wanted, but you can't do that anymore. Like you can't. And like this is such a good example you talked about with their like their reverse patriotism when it comes to places like Russia and everything. And you remember when Brittany Griner was in jail in Russia because she brought like a little bit of marijuana into the country, and so they locked her up. Now, ever since, I don't know, the last 5-6 years or so, every Republican I know is like, oh yeah, marijuana, it should be legal. Once again, which would have never happened 15, 20 years ago. Now they're all on board with it mysteriously. And then they're like, oh, she broke the rules. She did the crime. She has to do the time. And we had, there was an exchange for like some Russian arms dealer that we traded out for Brittany Griner. And everyone is like saying how based the arms dealer was, and that because the arms dealer came out and made a statement about how wokeness is bad and how I can't believe that in the United States, you know that North Korean girl that's over here who always talks about
She was on Rogan, like she's that
Yes.
classic meme. Yep.
Yeah. Like in North Korea, they throw you in a tub full of cockroaches if you don't pay your rent on time and stuff like that. So he became their like person for the United States. Is the United States, you can't tell the men from women at all. The wokeness is terrible. There was this whole speech he made, and all the people were like, I can't believe we got rid of this guy and got Brittany Griner instead. It's like they don't even have loyalty. Well, certain Americans don't get loyalty. We all know. Gay, black, lesbians certainly aren't going to get it. So they just, I don't know. It's just like, and the Putin thing, it is kind of crazy because that's why it's actually weird to me, because they don't think COVID was real. So Putin getting the test, who cares? They're not going to give a shit about it either way.
It's one of those things where like there are certain facets of leftist ideology that I feel are very confirmation biasy, survivorship biasy, that like we kind of just say as truisms that aren't necessarily tested. And one of them is how like fascists ideologically cling together, and liberals then support them as opposed to joining with leftists. And there are very many examples of that. But I also just feel like it's not always true. But like, there's so many times like this, like for whatever reason, you can't explain it any other way, why Republicans love anyone who hates woke people. They don't give a shit how much of an enemy Russia is to them. If the fucking Russian arms dealer of death says, oh, well, those woke people, fuck them, well, that Russian arms dealer of death, he's on our side now. And it's like there's zero ideological consistency, except for what advances my in-group is morally correct. And if you are an enemy of my enemy, you are my friend until you are my enemy. And then you are my enemy again. Like that's it. And that's why that classic poem, like at first they came for whoever and then they came for me. Like, yeah, that's how it fucking works. They get a broad tent by getting you to hate a certain group of people. People who are woke, immigrants, whatever the fuck it is, you're going to hate them and you're going to think you're in their fucking tent. But as soon as you are outside the in-group, well, you're the next fucking immigrant. And that's why you see over and over again, people like Trump associate themselves with people like Putin, with people like Kim Jong-un, like with people like fucking Bibi Netanyahu, because they are attracted to power for power's sake. Because that's the thing that is ultimately the highest moral value, is having the power to advance the interests of your in-group. And if you can do that, then you are good. And if you can't do that, then you are bad. And that explains everything.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, yeah, there's nothing I can point at. That's it. That's the one thing. That's the one through line through all of the Republican ideology. It is that. It is not a policy. It is, does this advance the interests of my in-group? And what your in-group is a fucking Rorschach test.
Yeah. It's like why QAnon worked Because if you ask like what is QAnon, very difficult to answer that question. It's kind of complex because it's this mishmash of 1,000 different conspiracies all over the place that kind of bond them together with hatred of whatever marginalized group they've chosen and a deep suspicion for any power structure, cynicism towards any power structure. A good example of what you were talking about, how they will take someone who they formally declared to be an enemy and then immediately rope them in the second they say something bad about a group they hate. Caitlyn Jenner. If you guys remember when Bruce Jenner first became Caitlyn Jenner, and there was this, I forget what the magazine was, like Vogue magazine or something like that, and it came out with Caitlyn Jenner on the cover. It said, "Call me Caitlyn," and had her as, the woman of the year. I swear to God, it must have been 18 months, 2 years, where they wouldn't shut the fuck up about this. They said, "Can you believe they made a man woman of the year?" As if they could name the previous woman of the year, for before, or like these titles, like sexiest man alive, woman of the year and shit. They don't mean anything. They're just there to sell copies of the magazine. But you ask a Republican, the fact that Caitlyn Jenner was named Woman of the Year was an offense to their sensibilities on the highest possible level. And now, though, the second Caitlyn Jenner came out and said, "Yeah, I think trans women in sports is a bad idea," they love her. They love her. And then she talks more. I remember her being on Fox News talking about there was a tax that was going to be put in place specifically for private jets. And Caitlyn Jenner was on there saying, "This is a horrible idea. This is going to wreck the economy." It's like, "Oh, thank you, Caitlyn. We really appreciate this." Yeah, because, she says the right things and they're on board with her now. Although they hate her, it doesn't matter. As long as she says the right things, they're going to do it.
And that's like the appeal to there's always been that appeal, especially to members of minority groups that are targeted by far right-wing movements. I don't know what the right word is. Like Uncle Tomming is the best way I can think of right now to describe it. Of just like, yeah, there's a lot of fucking money for a Candace Owens, a black woman, to go and spew this Nazi rhetoric. And you're like, oh, well, if she's a black woman, then how can she actually be a Nazi? It's because there's a lot of money. Eventually, they'll come for her. Mm-hmm. But her bet is just that she'll be safe by the time they do. And sometimes it works out that way, right? But other times it doesn't. In fact, most times it doesn't. And it really sucks that we never learned this lesson, DJ. It's incredible how this same exact pattern happens time and time and time again. But we don't actually, and I think this is the problem that I've said before, we don't teach the pattern. We just teach the result. We just teach, oh yeah, the Jews died by the millions.
Oh.
Nothing really happened before that to lead to that. It's just bad people killed the Jews. That's it. We killed the bad people. We're good now. Bad people enslaved black people and instituted Jim Crow laws. But we don't have slavery or Jim Crow laws anymore, so we're all good now. Absolutely nothing happened before that to lead to those circumstances. We don't teach the causes, we just teach the effects. And so every time the causes happen, people just think the effects can't happen because they already happened in the past. And we learned our lesson, but we didn't because we don't recognize the causes.
Yeah. I'll address that real quick, but you mentioned Candace Owens. There's a lot of money in tokenizing for the right wing. That's
tokenization. That's what I was probably looking for.
Yeah, if you're a part of a marginalized group and you want to spew hatred toward your group, then yeah, let's go. They'll take you in. And you mentioned how there's a lot of money in being a black Nazi, and I was thinking, yeah, that's true. However, it does make you wonder about these people who are black Nazis for free. What is wrong with you? You're not even getting anything out of this, right? You just have so much fucking hatred that you're just in barbershops spreading, Hotep white supremacy nonsense. It's like, why, man? You don't have to do this. You can just be a normal fucking person. Rupert Murdoch's not going to call you and ask you to come on your show. And the thing with how we teach the problem, the end result, and not the beginning, that's just how we teach history, unfortunately. And it's it's not even how we teach history. It's just how we view the world. And like a great example of this we always talk about is what's going on in Israel right now. Very similar to what happened to us here in the United States when, I mean, it's not the exact thing, but you guys know what I'm saying, where there is an overreaction to an excuse from an action to, just devastate people on a disproportionate scale. And we all cheered and clapped for it. It's like, no, and no one learned. Well, I mean, not no one, but a lot of people didn't learn from it. And you can see this with Republicans in not addressing the core issue. Because like you mentioned that, well, so back in the 1930s, the bad people did this to Jewish people in Germany, but then we killed all the bad people. And, the slavery thing happened and we fought a war, we beat them with the army and we got rid of slavery without talking about the core. And like with Germany, they just pretend that the anti-Semitism popped up out of nowhere in 1930, that, Adolf Hitler was the only person who had this idea. It's like, oh, yeah, no, it was pervasive. It was everywhere in Europe at the time. And the Republicans kind of look at this with, like, they do this with crime or riots. They talk about how, hey, look, we got all this crime going on in this neighborhood. We have riots taking place. So here's what we'll do. Good people don't commit crimes. Bad people do commit crime. We're going to lock up all the bad people and all the crime will stop. And it never works. It never works because that's not the problem. The problem isn't people who are just born evil. There's always socioeconomic circumstances that lead to that, and they refuse to address it. I just don't know how more people don't see it. If you think about it for 10 seconds, you can get to the conclusion pretty quickly, but we just don't.
I think that it's very helpful to be detached in some way from the cycle of suffering. Like, I don't want to speak for you, TJ, but for myself personally, I've lived a pretty fortuitous life. I had, certainly I'm at some level a victim of capitalism, and I've been exploited as a member of the working class, yada, yada, yada. But all in all, I grew up in an upper middle class white suburb of Philadelphia. Like, my life could be a lot worse, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not a victim of the machine. That being said, I'm able to kind of just look at it from the outside and go, oh yeah, all of this is so obvious. But someone who's actively getting fucking trampled isn't going to look at it like that. They're going to see above them, and they're going to want to get out from under it no matter how they can. And I think a lot of times what happens is that people who are downtrodden are often the first to turn to these far-right ideologies like fascism. Like, Hitler rose in Germany because, as a consequence of extreme austerity, isn't even the right word. It was like economically punitive measures taken on Germany as punishment for World War I, created absolutely a downtrodden population who were looking for anyone to step on themselves. Because being able to step on someone else while you're being stepped on makes you feel better about being stepped on. If you are at a lower level of a hierarchical system, you are more likely to support that system as long as there are people below you that you can be like, at least I'm better than them. And I feel like that is the trap that so many people fall into. On all, this happens on both sides of the aisle, by the way. Like, I had someone today like arguing, oh, well, we should stop funding the Iron Dome because the people in Israel deserve to die. I'm like, no, fuck, that's the same goddamn argument, just on its head. And I get it. I get it, but it's just as wrong. Like, it's just as wrong as the argument the other side makes. Which is why we're consistent. Which is why, TJ, we said this before, I respect the fucking white supremacists more than I do the standard.
I do.
At least they're fucking consistent.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Like they have logical consistency. It's fucking horrific, but at least they aren't like trying to fool themselves.
Yeah, or you. That's really because that's what. Because conservatives, I don't know. It's gotten to the point now that I don't want anything to do with most conservatives, honestly, because if you don't need to be like deep in the trenches of political online activity to hear what other conservatives say and to hear what the thought leaders say, to hear what the politicians say, to see what they said in the past and what they support. It's like, oh, these guys are white supremacists. They come like just short of saying the actual term most of the time. A lot of them do say the actual term. And it's like, okay, if I've noticed this, you've definitely noticed this. You've definitely noticed this if you've been there. You've been hanging out in a group of nothing but Republicans and heard what they've said. You've seen the organizations they sign up with, the websites they follow. It's just, yeah, you guys know what's going on. But oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. I should have wrote it down. Damn, I had something I was going with. What were you talking about just now? The
system of oppression, the cycle of oppression, the hierarchical worldview.
That's right. That's right. Oh shit. The hierarchical oppression, the systems that you'll see this a lot in, because you're right. It affects pretty much everybody. And I'll speak with for Black people first, or about Black people first, is that a lot of times you'll see Black people and they'll say that, well, you know, the solution is Black excellence or Black capitalism. No, it's not. Black capital. Look, white. Capitalism hasn't fixed the problem for white people, okay? It certainly isn't going to fix ours, okay? Well, it's not going to happen. So people delude themselves into thinking, all right, it's kind of like what Jordan Peterson does, or Andrew Tate, or the Red Pill guys, or honestly, hell, any conservative, speaker or commentator, is they'll say, they get the first part right. Congratulations. The first part is the system is stacked against you. The rich and the powerful and elite, they don't have your best interest at heart. They are going to screw you over the first possible chance they have. That is true. And the system is not in your favor. What you need to do is to make sure the system works better in your favor. And fuck everybody else. That's what it is. Like, that's their solution, that they need to take this unfair system and exploit it to their advantage at the expense of their fellow human beings. Which, yeah, congrats. That's sociopathic, but that doesn't actually solve the problem for anybody, honestly. What's that noise?
And to tie it back all the way to Russia and Putin and Donald Trump, it is just such a clear example of exactly what you're describing, where they know at some level, they must see Donald Trump being buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin, sending him COVID tests. Like, that should on every level piss them off. Every single level of Republican ideology, Donald Trump sending Vladimir Putin COVID tests during the height of the pandemic, when he was implementing lockdowns and like we couldn't get these tests out to Americans, sending them off to a bad leader of a bad country, an outproof country. But it doesn't matter, because it wouldn't advance the interests of their group, their level of the hierarchy. It wouldn't help them to either shoot down or rise up themselves, and so they just ignore it. And just like they ignore all of the warning signs. And, at a certain level, ignorance must be bliss, DJ. And until that comes and bites you in the face, denial is one hell of a fucking drug.
Yeah, I do think about that sometimes, that I am kind of jealous of them. Like, you ever see like a golden retriever and it's just having the time of its life? You're like, it doesn't know anything about Gaza or anything. That's kind of like Republicans are. I see them like they're just having so much fun. It's like, yeah, being an idiot is pretty cathartic. It would make your life a lot better. And even just dismissing reality. When you just mentioned the COVID lockdowns and everything, whenever you talk to people, this doesn't happen to people I talk to, but you'll hear people saying, yeah, Biden and Harris with the lockdowns. I said, the lockdown started in 2020. Like that's when in fact, that's when they were at their most stringent, at the middle and end of 2020. It kind of tapered off from there. Like by late 2021, most of them had, we weren't even locked down anymore by that point. We were locked down for what? A month, maybe, in some places, maybe, and not really. If you talk to people who are overseas, I had another podcast I was on, and the person I was speaking with, she was in Italy during 2020. They were literally locked down. They couldn't leave their city. I knew people in Australia, like, there were checkpoints in the road to make sure you go. We had it pretty easy in terms of lockdowns, and most of them were under Trump. They don't blame him. They don't blame him at all. They think Anthony Fauci was very clearly manipulating data and, doing gain of functions tests to try to kill people. Trump never fired him. And they don't give him any shit for this. It's just, I don't know. I wish I could find out like how he did this weird cult mind control on millions of people, because it's just sad to see. Let's see, what did people...
Yeah, let's move over. Let's address some comments. This is going to tail very nicely into our discussion of Elon Musk. But before we get to that, let's address some comments here, because we're gonna have some extra time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No guess and all. Yeah. What? Republicans want, let's make libs cry. Yes, huge ass. I do say this all the time that Republicans, their number one goal that they have is spite. It is spite-based politics. It is all make libs cry, fuck your feelings, Trump 2024. It's not, they don't rally around policies. It doesn't really happen. It just rallies around fuck your feelings. I don't know, which is why they like Trump, honestly. Trump is really just like that spite made manifest. It just makes you wonder how long this could last. I mentioned yesterday how I think that the Trump phenomenon is dying out and that most Americans are just fucking sick and tired of Donald Trump because you can only do this for so long, right? There's only so much you can go with just, I'm angry, let's have someone come in like a bull in a china shop.
Which, by the fact, I wanted to touch on that real quick because, yeah, fuck your feelings, except with big, giant fucking asterisks, male anger is not a feeling.
No.
Male anger, that's just default state.
Yeah.
That's not a feeling.
Yeah.
Female anger, that's a feeling. When
Yeah.
women get angry, they're just being emotional. When men get angry, they're just being men. It's one of the most obvious fucking hypocrisies that you will ever see, but it exists every single time they fucking talk about it.
It is, and that's honestly that frame of reference isn't limited to right wingers or Republicans as a whole, because all my life I've heard women are more emotional than men. Folks, I've been alive a long time now. I can't tell the difference. Men and women seem equally emotional to me. The only difference you can point out is the type of emotions that are manifested in general in men and women. And with women, it's a wide range of them. With men, it's mostly anger. Anger and sadness, whining and moping. It's just like, yeah, you guys, honestly, John, you're a sports guy. You've definitely seen guys come to blows or just short of it, arguing over who the best shortstop in the AL West is. Like, stuff that doesn't fucking matter at all, and they will literally fight you over this stuff. Tell me that's not emotional. Tell me that's not emotional. Like, guys get turned down for dates. Like, I don't know, a girl broke your heart in 9th grade and you hate women for the next 30 years. Like, there are guys out there like that. There's, oh yeah, this girl, she cheated on me or she lied to me and I'm going to make all 4 billion women on planet Earth pay for this. That sounds pretty emotional. The people, the almost everyone who is like at 90+% who is in jail right now for aggravated assault, battery, murder, men. It's pretty emotional if you ask me. I don't know how they get away with saying this and people just let it slide. It's like, no, sorry, we need to talk about this. That's not true.
I think it's a similar phenomenon to how, like, if you look at like a graph of like serial killers, it's like pretty flat for a while and then it spikes in the 60s and 70s and then starts going down again in the 80s. And it's like, what happened during the 70s? We got DNA evidence. Like, we started finding the serial killers. It's not that there were more serial killings. It's that we just didn't notice the patterns before because we didn't have the means of detection. And it's the same way for, like, men and women's emotions. Like, men aren't trained to recognize emotions or whatever. So they just kind of, it all comes out in anger. And there's all of these complex nuances that result in that anger that are just fucking ignored all the time. And it just comes out in anger. Meanwhile, women are actually able to process emotions, this is a generalization, but they are socialized to process emotions better and communicate them better. And so they'll talk about their emotions. And men hear that and they're like, she's talking about emotions. She's being emotional. Yeah. And that causes them to not have fits of rage. But then they don't get like they get knocked for it because men can't understand what they're doing is actually preventing them from emotional outbursts because they're doing regular maintenance on their emotions. Again, generalization, there are many men that can fucking recognize emotions and many women who fucking can't. But this is the way we socialize people. Mark here said, our number one goal is spite, not free people, free markets, motto of the Wall Street Journal. I came in late and you guys are off the rails. Mark, some Republicans have, like, what's his name? Who's the libertarian guy?
Ron Paul?
Ron Paul. His goal is genuinely free markets and free people. I will believe that. But if you're going to tell me that fucking Marco Rubio, his goal is free markets, no, it's fucking not. Donald Trump's goal is not free fucking markets. One of his two biggest policy positions are deport millions of people massive interference in the free labor market, and fucking put tariffs on literally everything. That's not even an exaggeration. Literally everything. He wants government intervention in the free market. So, like, no, the current Republican Party, as stands, is not a free market fucking party. You cannot possibly argue that.
And oh man, Mark, I have so much to say. Mark, let's be real here. The fact that you listen to this show at all, it does prove you're a lot smarter than most other conservatives. I think you're giving them way too much credit here. And like honestly, like with the whole thing, what you're saying about
yeah, he doesn't hate watch the show either. Like,
yeah, you really seem to enjoy it.
I do have to give Mark credit. Like he watches and he does critically engage. He might disagree with us a lot of the time, but he's not a hater who's hate watching. We can tell the fucking difference.
I know, right? It's the IQ, honestly, but it's the all right. So you say that spite isn't what drives Republican politics. Here's my challenge to you: find out what they march for, and find out what gets the biggest applause lines whenever Trump is speaking. It's never going to be, oh, we need to do the tariffs. The tariffs don't get thunderous applause. It's never going to be, we need to reduce regulations. No, it's we need to deport the Mexicans. We need to deport the Haitians who I know are here legally, but I don't care anyway. The schools are transing your kids. That is what gets a thunderous applause, and you know it. You know it. That is what it is all about. It's all about hurting people. Oh, it's all about wow, can you believe Hillary? We should put her in jail, right? This clapping all over the place. It's never about the policies, and it never will be. That's why I say I'm so comfortable saying it, because you know these people well enough. You know what really energizes them. You will, like we talked, Don and I talked about the other day. You will never see this giant protest for workers' rights in the Republican Party. It will not happen. The only time you'll see it, actually I saw it once, was during COVID, because like Southwest Airlines, they went on strike because they didn't want the vaccine. They were all over that. Yeah, because they love their conspiracy theories. But when it comes to actual policy stuff, that's ancillary. It's ancillary stuff to the rage that they have. And what else we have here? Black Nazis tend to not just internalize racism, but the idea someone can signal to white people, I'm one of the good ones. Yes, that is true. There's a lot of value in being accepted by the in-group. There is, and they'll use it to your advantage. They'll discard you, and most black people realize that, so they don't fall for it, but that's true. When you're talking about these simple narratives, some people don't like to self-reflect. Metacognition is exhausting. It's easier to believe simple narratives of in-group good, out-group bad. That's true.
Kyle, I agree with you. I do this to myself. It's fucking exhausting. I don't know why I do it, but I can't live differently.
You have no choice.
I do wish that I could sometimes just turn it off, like so many people do.
It is weird though that you notice that you're doing this, but it's even weirder to me that people don't do it at all. That's very strange. I remember even like simple ways. I remember this guy I worked with, he was saying that his sister was a lesbian. And this guy was a conservative. I don't know, it was always funny listening to this guy talk, because he wasn't a bad guy. He just couldn't think very well. And he was saying that, he was always against like welfare and people like taking free handouts and shit. And then one day I heard him talking, he's like, yeah, so my house is over here. I inherited it from my grandpa. I was like, how can you be saying shit like that, man? Like, you don't realize. But he was talking about his sister, and his sister was a lesbian. He says, and I always told her, look, I asked her, hey, have you ever had sex with a man? And she said, no, I never have. He goes, well, how do you know you wouldn't like it? And of course, the obvious question is, well, bro, have you ever had sex with a man? He says, no, I haven't. I said, well, how do you know you wouldn't like it? And he was like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. It's like, how? Hey, you asked the question. You asked the fucking question, right? It's just like, and people are living their entire lives like this. And I don't know. I don't fucking get it. I don't understand. So the fact that I can't turn it off isn't as disturbing to me as the fact that some people never turn it on. That's what I find kind of strange.
So what is more annoying to you? People who kind of like Heather said, the golden retriever.
This is very funny. Can you read that? Can you read that?
Yeah. Oh, you heard of golden? Heather says, "Oh, you've heard of golden retriever boyfriends. Now introducing golden retriever voters." and like, but what is more annoying to you? The golden retrievers just I have no idea what's going on. I never think about anything. I guess I'm going to look up the candidates maybe a week before the election and just go vote. Does that annoy you more, or do like the fucking like dyed in red total hypocrites and they do not care who have the knowledge to realize that they are wrong, but will say with a straight face that they're not, which because they want to advance their in-group behavior. Which one of those is more annoying?
That's an easy call, John. That's the number the first one. The first one is far more annoying to me. Because listen, I can put up with evil. I can put up with evil. I can put up with malicious. I can pull up with just a scourge of humanity. It's like, like one of the best characters in Star Wars is the Emperor. He's great. The Emperor is great. He is like top 3 character in the entire series because he's evil. He knows it. He loves it. I can appreciate that. I can. It's like how I respect, you said, the white supremacist over the crypto white supremacists who don't have the balls to admit it, or like the Westboro Baptist people who are saying gay people are going to hell because, hey, that is what the Bible says. They aren't cowering behind it. But people so there's 2 types of people you mentioned. The genuine ones and the disingenuous ones. They're usually pretty easy to spot. Because the ones who really don't care and don't have any interest in it, they sound like the way you talk. Oh yeah, they're happy. They're like, yeah, I just live my life. I'm just doing it. The other people who say it's like, yeah, I don't really get much into politics. Okay, I know you have some horrible ass politics that you're afraid to admit. You can just tell by their cadence of it. So the first group, though, that just doesn't give a shit, and they'll get the stuff that they'll say. They'll say stuff like, well, I figure I'm not political and wear it like a badge. And I was like, your boss is political. I can guarantee you that. Mm-hmm. Your police chief is political. Your landlord is political. Everyone who has power over your life is political as hell. Why would you just cede that away to them? I don't get it. I don't know how their brain works that way. I don't even envy them. It's just so strange. I don't get it. What is there? We got some people live the lives of animals. They work, eat, sleep, have sex, watch TV, no thoughts in their head. It's not a good life. Being human beings, having intimacy and love beyond pure physicality. Yeah. Oh my God, there are more comments than I thought here. This is. But I was going to real quick that
this is a great Wednesday Q&A show.
I know, right?
We're having a great Wednesday Q&A.
Could have come at a better time. This is we're kind of winging here. But my measure for because intelligence is kind of a fuzzy word. There's different types of intelligence. So, you don't do well on a physics test doesn't mean you're dumb. It's just not your topic. But my indicator, like my personal intelligence test, is how curious you are about things that happen outside of your life. Like you ever talk to someone and you say, oh, this thing like this hurricane is happening, or, there's this civil conflict, or this financial thing, or this anything, any topic at all. And they're like, oh, yeah, I don't care about that. The only thing they want to talk about is what directly happened to them, like things that they actually experienced. It's like, how are you living your life like this? You have no curiosity outside of things that you see on your day-to-day basis. That's what I consider like you're living life like an animal. And it's hard to be mad at these folks. After a while, you're like, oh, like, I'm not mad at Wolfie because he can't read, right? I'm not, right? Or why would I be? He doesn't have the capability. And these people long enough, like, oh, that's just how they are. I don't know. Okay, let's go on to, Elon, right?
Elon, yes.
So, what did you want to talk about with Elon specifically? I remember you said you wanted to be, what exactly?
So we just had a whole conversation, and if you are just watching this episode right now, go back and watch our last episode about Trump and Vladimir Putin. But we just had a whole conversation about how the only ethical moral code that these far-right groups follow is what advances what advances my in-group is morally good, and what hurts my in-group is morally bad. And the inverse is that is whatever hurts the out-group is morally good, and whatever helps the out-group is morally bad. And I want to talk about Elon Musk for a second here, because he is such a poster child for that mindset. And we've talked a lot in the past, and we're not the only persons who have made this comment, but how Elon Musk is such a great example, just in the most public possible example of how being rich doesn't mean you're smart. And just seeing what he's done to Twitter should very clearly demonstrate that to people. Well, it should also demonstrate this obvious hypocrisy in right-wing thought process, because I've been seeing a lot of chatter recently about how, oh, Elon Musk used to be a Democrat, and the Democrats moved so far left that Elon Musk just had to join the conservatives. And it's like, he was a Democrat, like, in the same way that fucking, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi's a Democrat. Like, it doesn't, the ideology didn't fucking cause him to be a Democrat. Democrats haven't moved left and left Elon Musk behind. Elon Musk has moved right because of the demographic shifts that have happened within the parties. Elon Musk is a dyed-in-the-wool fucking apartheid goddamn South African. And when you understand that, it explains everything else. Case in point, I'm going to pull up, this is a, oh shit, I had it prepped, and then now it's not prepped, because did I just,
Well,
I think I changed the tab.
yeah, I know, it's tricky like that.
I want to pull up this tweet from Elon Musk, and you're going to think that it couldn't possibly be the same Elon Musk that is openly campaigning for Donald Trump.
I know the tweet, yep.
And saying that Democrats are a threat to democracy, that if the Democrats win, we're never going to have a real election again because they're going to bring in all these fucking immigrants, and just literally openly just advocating for white replacement theory, right? Like, this is what Elon Musk is doing on Twitter. And this is a tweet from Elon Musk just 2 years ago, TJ.
2 years, yeah.
Ago.
It's wait, this is like right when he took over Twitter, right? Am I guessing that's the one?
It was either right before or right after. I forget exactly what it was. It was 4/27/22. For Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral, which effectively means upsetting the far right and the far left equally. That is the man who is currently, 2 years later, actively campaigning for Donald Trump. And not in the way where he's just giving his opinion on shit, literally joining him on the stage at campaign events. And also taking the Twitter handle of America and using it to literally give people $47 for registering to vote and saying they're pledging their vote to Donald Trump. It's like that is the level to which the hypocrisy it stands. And there's no fucking way, there's no way in hell that you can make an argument that is ideologically consistent. No, it's not. It's only because he wants to advance the interests of his in-group. That's what it always is. It's what it always fucking is, TJ. And it just pisses me off that, like, people just can't fucking acknowledge this. And I think a lot of the problem is that the people, like, Democrats do it too. And so, like, they won't call it out. But, like, I don't know.
What do you mean?
What are your thoughts?
What do you mean? They won't call it?
Democrats also have a fucking awful in-group, out-group mentality. Like,
I see.
They also will do the thing where, like, they're like, oh, yeah, Donald Trump putting kids in cages, his immigration policy was fucking awful. It's an affront to humanity. But when Joe Biden does it, they're quiet as a fucking peep. You know, like, it's not about the consistency in their worldview. It's about good guys and bad guys. You know.
Yeah, there is some suspicious inconsistency too when the Democrats do this. And it's, you know what? It's kind of like what we were talking about before with how Republicans will embrace you the second you start saying anything they kind of agree with. And the Democrats are doing this now with Donald Trump, and how we've had this renaissance for George W. Bush that, oh, he was actually a good president when he was not. And I think it was it Waltz and Harris, or just Waltz, who were saying, they said in their closing remarks at the debate that we're very proud to have Dick Cheney endorsing us. And I was like, why? Why are we walking around bragging? Because the Republicans have an easy dunk, and I don't blame them for it. It's a good one. It's like, oh, you guys want, because this their hypocrisy too. Because folks, if you weren't around back then, they loved Dick Cheney. They loved him. Like, Dick Cheney was very popular along with George W. Bush the entire time that they were conducting those wars.
If Dick Cheney supported Trump, they'd still love him. Like
they would, exactly, yeah, all right, and which doesn't speak well for the Democrats. It's like, okay, thanks, Dick, but we're not going to brag about this. Because do you remember when Joe Rogan kind of hinted that he was supporting Bernie Sanders, and there was this huge discourse on the left of, oh, should he embrace Joe Rogan? Should he brag about the Joe Rogan advancement? Because, if he starts saying that he accepts Joe Rogan's endorsement, that what does it say? No, Dick Cheney, though, we got him. Like, kill a couple million people and you'll be good to go. That was kind of weird. I do think I want to disagree with a little thing you said, John, and in the very beginning, and I mean, you'll probably agree, but it's like, was you were saying the Democrats haven't moved left? I mean, substantially, no, but socially, definitely. Like, the Democrats have definitely socially moved left since, I don't know.
I guess that's
what he means.
Finish your thought.
Yeah,
I want
what
you
he
to
means.
finish this.
Because, I mean, there's this myth that has just been pervasive and throughout American culture that, well, the Democrats want high taxes, the Republicans want low taxes. They want pretty much the same. There's almost no difference. There is almost no difference in the past 40 years with tax policy. Like, ever since everyone's trying to be Ronald Reagan, the main difference that you'll see are social differences. So I pulled up this picture that Elon Musk shared. Let me make sure I got the right tab. Yeah, it's liberals. So this Elon Musk shared this picture. I think the date's on here so I can find out when he shared it. But he was explaining his current position. And in the picture, it's from 2008. And it shows the fact that, he was on the left in the blue over there. And then the left kept moving further and further away until 2021. He's been encompassed by the right. Now, that's not entirely incorrect. I don't think that's actually a bad chart if you think about it, because if you are someone who is on the left in, say, 2008, like before the Democrats were openly in favor of gay marriage, and then the Democrats start moving further and further, and they support it. That's a better image. So if you start there and the Democrats move further, actually, yeah, we're cool with gay marriage. And hey, this trans thing, we should start accepting them more. Maybe we start using these pronouns. In your mind, the party is moving further and further left, and you're staying in the same spot. But the thing is, if you stay in the same spot for a long enough time, that's definitionally a conservative. If you were a liberal Democrat in 1967 and like, oh, well, I haven't moved and now I'm conservative. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Like, I don't think it's incorrect. It's kind of cowardly, but they just don't want to admit that they're conservatives now. That's just that was my only disagreement.
So there's a lot here, TJ, and I'm gonna say some things that might come off as contradictory, and I'm gonna try and land the plane. Because, I do think, from the perspective of Elon Musk, the Democrats have substantially moved left, specifically within the Biden administration, on two key things which are important to Elon Musk. One, and this isn't a result of Democratic policy, but they've let in a lot more fucking immigrants. And the apartheid racist that Elon Musk cannot abide by that. Now, is that a result of Democratic policy? Fuck no. The same thing would have happened under Donald Trump. But it does piss him off, and I get that. The other thing that Democrats have done, which specifically pisses Elon Musk off, they've been way more pro-labor. They have moved left when it comes to labor. And it's something that I think the left doesn't give Joe Biden enough
That's true.
credit
That's
for.
true.
But like the NLBR has been emboldened by the Biden administration, will continue to be emboldened by the Kamala Harris administration. And any Democrat that takes over after that, if we are so fortunate, it's going to be a very pro-labor party moving forward. And Elon Musk, the union buster that he is, cannot abide by that. So if he's looking at it from that perspective, from the labor perspective, as a staunch fucking anti-union capitalist, I will agree with him that it has legitimately moved left and placed him on the right. However, where I disagree is this social bullshit. Because I fundamentally, like, you're right, sort of, kind of, yeah, the Democratic Party has moved left socially, but have they, like, besides gay marriage, what other fucking social policy has changed from the Democrats? Like, besides that one thing, which every fucking Republican now says they are okay with. They're not.
They're not.
Like, they say it's cool. So, with that exception, TJ, in what actual policy position have the Democrats moved left on social issues?
I don't know if it's necessarily policy because they wouldn't need to make one generally. I guess they could. They could like make policy saying that we are going to, I don't know, the tampon Tim kind of thing. That hey, we're aware that transgender people exist, so if a school needs feminine hygiene products in a boys' bathroom, we can do it. That they jump minor shit doesn't really matter, but generally it would be just like. And honestly, this stuff kind of annoys me too in a little bit, where the Democrats will focus a lot on the messaging about a culture issue because they don't really want to make a whole lot of policy stuff. So they will, like, remember, I was trying to think of thing one. But like, remember how they're still trying to do it, I think, where they refer to Latinos as Latinx or something.
That's always dumb.
Yeah, right. And you talk to people like Latino people, they say, yeah, I said, no, that doesn't make sense. Like that doesn't work in Spanish. Like I get what you're trying to do, and so like stuff like that. And so like little messaging things that just annoy them so much. Like, well, I guess I'm a Republican now, and or just acknowledging that different minority groups are we're gonna saying Black Lives Matter, just like stuff like that, just stuff that you can just say out loud and message. It infuriates people on the right, and you're right, they're not necessarily policy positions, but they are a cultural shift and a cultural change. And so Elon Musk comes up there and he tries to say oh, I can't say the R word anymore. What are you talking about? This is an affront on my free speech. That's what it really comes down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, that's not Democrats.
Yeah, it's not Democrats.
No
You're right.
law
Yeah.
implemented or even like that by Democrats saying it's illegal to say the R word.
Right.
Now. It's just that people who are Democrats are less comfortable with hearing that word now and will get upset if you say it. And you don't like that.
Yep.
And this is why I'm always like, it's fucking bullshit, because we're gonna go right back to this fucking tweet, TJ, of we need to piss both sides off.
Oh Christ!
Equally. Like, this is the South Park.
Yes.
Philosophy.
Oh God.
It's we can if you actually believe that, I'm cool with you, but then you cannot say that because they've moved left socially in the words that they use, they must be. I must join the other party now. No, if you don't care about identity politics, you can't use a shift in identity politics as a reasoning for switching your party. Either you care about identity politics or you think they're stupid. If you think they're stupid, there's no reason to change party because one is talking about identity politics. You should just go on policy. And if the policy hasn't shifted, which it fucking hasn't for almost everything, what you're just lying to us. Like it's just a fucking lie. We know it's a lie because of the reasons that we detailed earlier, but again, I just wish they'd be fucking honest about it.
Yeah, but they have to respect Elon Musk's opinion because he's rich. Okay, I'm sure if you've ever criticized Elon Musk online, you'll get, well, where's your $100 billion? You're so smart. What agencies are you the CEO of if you're so smart? This guy is clearly a genius, because this is why the genius myth still persists, despite everything we see about Elon Musk. And we say this all the time. Well, I do. I don't know if John does, but I say it all the time that I don't like, once again, I'm not saying that people who communicate poorly or are, bad speakers in public or poor public speaking skills are unintelligent. That's not what I'm saying. However, if it's on the fence, if it is on the fence on whether or not you're a bright person and you get up there and stumble through 6 or 7 words like Elon Musk, I would never make a public speech. I would never do it. I keep it mysterious. Like, billionaires used to be secluded and cool. Like, even hell, Mark Zuckerberg, one of the weirdest people alive, people would rank him as way cooler than Elon Musk. And because Zuckerberg knows better than to just, go out there and start, running his mouth all the time. And I wanted to talk about what you mentioned with the both sides thing, that Elon, once again, that's something fucking stupid people say when they're like, well, if I pissed off both sides, I must be doing something right. No. In what context is that ever true? That these two positions that just happen to represent the two major political parties of the United States at this particular time are the full extents and the parameters of this conversation. Hey, so the middle of this must be correct. That makes it's arbitrary. It makes no sense at all. And it's how millions of people seem to think. Like you say this out loud, applause, people are like, oh yeah, that's a free thinker right there. Someone who pisses off both sides. I don't it's if you say that, you are either stupid or lazy. There is no third option. It is one of those two, probably both. And Elon Musk, that definitely does fit him, to a T.
There is a grain of truth in that, of like, you should be willing to piss off both sides.
Two different.
But that's a very different statement than if you're pissing off both sides.
Exactly.
You are right.
Yeah.
Like that they're completely different. Because I agree. You should be willing to make fun of your own side.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever side you're on, you should be willing to make fun of it. In fact, you should be more willing to make fun of it. And if you can't do it, it is a sign that you are in a fucking cult. But it doesn't mean that if you do piss off both sides, you are correct. Like, that's just again, I can't watch South Park anymore, kind of because of it. Like, it's really sad.
No one really believes that either. No one really believes that, because they have positions that are like, well, yeah, obviously the First Amendment is good. Like, within certain parameters, yes, there need to be protections, fire in crowded theater and all that. But overall, the First Amendment is good. I don't need someone to have. Actually, the First Amendment is bad. Free speech shouldn't be a thing. Like, the government should be able to lock you up for saying I disagree with the actual. Like, I don't need to both sides this. And also the concept that there are two sides. Absurd. Ridiculous. They just accept it. And it's like, Jesus Christ. We shit on the United States for the propagandists and everything, but they've done a hell of a job, man. They've done a hell of a job these last 100 years. Oh, geez, more than that. But saying that, well, these are... You know how people say that there's a liberal media, and that kind of makes us laugh, that they think the media is liberal? The media is corporatist, obviously. But I remember listening to Noam Chomsky talk about this. A lot of people probably heard this, but he was saying that the media kind of is liberal, and it kind of is liberal by necessity, because like the New York Times or CBS or whatever, they set the limit to where public discourse can go to the left. Like, anything further to the left than what you'll see on corporate media is seen as, unpatriotic, as revolutionary, as radical, as extreme. Even just so you say your position is like, oh, well, isn't that kind of extreme? Well, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with it? Are we about talking about ideas or not? So in a way, it kind of is, and it's just... I just can't. Once again, it goes back to the lazy fucking thinking. There are two sides: Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, and that's where I'm going to keep my entire conversation. Not going to expand any further than that.
One thing I will say to wrap this up is that I don't know if you get this because you make different content than I do, but I make a lot of content directly, representing conservative arguments. I do I'm speaking on this side as me, I'm speaking on this side.
I call it John and Dumb John. That's what I call it in my head when I watch. Oh, it's John and Dumb John. That's so yeah.
And so I often will get accused of straw manning. And for what, if you don't know what a straw man is, a straw man argument is when someone makes an argument to you and then you construct a weaker argument to argue against instead. One that isn't actually being made. For example, if I say war is bad, you might say, oh, well, so you're saying we shouldn't have gone to war with Hitler? And it's like, no, that's not what I'm fucking saying. But that's a straw man argument, right? Very similar to a Mott and Bailey. But the thing is, when I make my videos, when I make my content, I'm arguing oftentimes against things that like Donald Trump or Elon Musk literally directly said. And they're like, oh, well, that's a weak version of the anti-immigration argument. I'm like, well, that's the one Republicans are fucking making, bro. Like, it's not my fault that they're making the weak version of the argument because people are fucking buying it. So clearly it needs to be refuted. And it's like, there's not two sides to the Haitians in fucking Springfield, Ohio argument.
Nope.
And the fact that the media treats it like it could possibly have another side to this argument is absurd. That is right-wing bias, bro. Like, it is the most right-wing bias thing you can possibly have to treat the absurd argument the right side is making, which has no basis in data. I swear to God, they will just repeat shit like, oh yeah, Trump's talking about the migrant crime wave, and not to say ever in the fucking article that no, that's just a straight up lie. Immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than native born Americans. Every fucking time they should say that, and they don't. And the fact that they don't, and the fact that they treat the two things as equal, even though one is clearly wrong, that's right wing fucking bias.
Yeah, it's listen, conservatives, it's very hard to avoid straw manning your arguments when every one of your arguments is made of straw. Every single time, like they are all they sound ridiculous because they are ridiculous. It's like something I point out a lot is that a lot of here's a good example. You'll see like Donald Trump get on stage or something and say, the Democrats out there, they want to have babies executed the moment after birth. That is not a position anybody holds. It's not a position that you will find in writing anywhere. It's not legal in any state. And they do this for a lot. They'll say like they spread this vicious lie that people on the left are advocating for kids to get their genitals removed. That these people like in all these states, they can just send their 9-year-olds out there, get their junk cut off. That is not legal anywhere. So just so everyone knows, it is illegal or it is not permitted anywhere in the country to remove a child's genitals because they hear the term like trans affirming care or even trans affirming surgery, and they'll automatically assume junk on the floor. Like that is what they're assuming. And it's like, no, you need to be 18 to have bottom surgery. Except for there's like 2 states, I think, where you can make an exception for 17 if they've been, in treatment for like 5 or 6 years, something like that. There's no scenario at all where a 7-year-old gets their genitals removed. Republicans say it all the fucking time. It's not even close to true. And for us, though, when we say the wild shit, there are plenty of Republicans who believe it. Like we will say that, listen, there are people out there who want abortion to be illegal no matter what. Like they don't care if it's rape, incest, life of the mother. They don't care. You can find plenty of Republicans like that.
It's not just Republicans. It's fucking Republican congressmen.
People in office.
Like it's actual people with power to do the things.
Yeah.
It's not just everyday Republicans. Because you won't even find everyday Democrats. Like any fucking trans right advocate, you can go out there. They're not going to say we should be chopping 7-year-olds fucking dicks off. Literally no one is saying that.
Well, wait, Kyle did bring up a good point. So it is 100% legal to remove a child's genitalia if they are intersex. It's called intersex genital mutilation. Republicans make carve-outs and anti-trans legislation to make it legal. That's true. All right, in that scenario, it actually reminds me of a joke I would make on this whenever they would say that, that there's genital mutilation. Goes like, no, the only genital mutilation that happens is when they circumcise, boys when they're born and everything. But Kyle is correct. People that are born intersex can have it happens all the time. And so, but that is what I was addressing. But that is absolutely true. So yeah, it's like once again, not living in reality, saying that people do something when it doesn't exist at all, while constantly saying shit that nobody actually believes. I don't know. So I'm glad Hugh brought this up. I was going to say, some people think the earth is a globe, others think it's flat, so the truth must be in the middle. It's probably a cube or something. Yeah, I use that example a lot. I'm starting to be able to use it a lot less with as many flat earthers are around, where I was like, yeah, whenever I talk about geography, I always come at it from an anti-flat earth bias. Yeah, I don't need every time someone talks about a hurricane, I don't need to have another person on there saying, actually, the hurricane's not real. This is all made up by the government. This is all green screen. Florida doesn't exist. We're
going to be getting to that, TJ.
Oh, are we? The hurricane. Let's go. Let's fucking go with it or whatever.
We'll jump right into the hurricane.
Yeah.
Then we'll get to the comments and we'll finish off with our election coverage. But okay, so TJ, there was a big hurricane yesterday, last night. And this follows another big hurricane that hit Appalachia quite hard. This one hit Florida quite hard. And do you notice a pattern here, TJ? The first hurricane, it hit Appalachia, right? The second hurricane hit Florida. It's a lot of red states getting hit. You think Joe Biden is controlling the weather and taking out these red states?
Yeah, I saw that the part of North Carolina that was most devastated by the hurricane was Western North Carolina, which is a strong Republican area, and North Carolina is a swing state. So it just makes perfect sense that Joe Biden has the Hurricane-O-Matic 4000. He's turning the knobs and sending the hurricanes out there, and we've even had. I All right. So you ever see Republicans do this? They do this on Twitter a lot where it's rage bait. We get it. We're in the game. We understand. It's just like you think it would be beneath someone in office. It's not. But they'll post out something that is outrageous for the sake of being outrageous. But then you're like, okay, but I know this person. Do they actually think this? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene put out a tweet saying, what did she say? She said,
I got it.
Oh yeah,
prepped,
okay,
TJ.
let's go. Yeah, let's go.
I got it prepped. So she said, this was the first one where she said, yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. Which, well, bon appetit, Marjorie Taylor.
Yeah.
That is such you almost have to give her credit for how much of a Rorschach test that tweet was. It's like, whoever they is in your mind, you get to be pissed at them for controlling the weather. It doesn't matter. And she gets to say, I wasn't talking about Jewish people. It's not my fault if Nazis saw it that way. Like that's exactly what she and she knows she's doing it, and it's fucking brilliant. But she actually explained the tweet, TJ.
Oh, did she? No, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see a follow up.
So she explained and posted a lot of screenshots, so you know that she has to be correct. Everyone keeps asking, who is they? Well, some of them are listed on NOAA, as well as most of the ways weather can be modified, because they're required to report it to the Secretary of Commerce by the Weather Modification Act of 1972. So what she's doing here...
Yeah, what is she talking about?
Is what we call moving the goalposts, right? So there are situations where, yeah, you can, to a certain extent, modify the weather. Like, it is a thing where, like, you can try and get an area to have more rain.
Yeah, you can see clouds and shit.
Exactly. Where, like, it's marginal, like, we're trying to overall, it's more climate manipulation. And she's moving the goalposts from they create hurricanes. They can specifically order a hurricane to hit this specific area to, yeah, humans have some impact on the climate and can control weather patterns to some certain extent. But also, and here's the very critical part, TJ, they do not contribute to climate change. We can directly control hurricanes, but do not cause climate change. It is one of the most even fucking other Republicans are like saying they're tired of her shit. Like we have fucking Republican Chuck Edwards of North Carolina literally put out a press release entitled "Debunking Helene Response to Helene
I saw
Response
that.
Myths," and while not mentioning Green by name, stated nobody can control the weather.
So yeah, this is yeah, that is wild stuff. I just you know what's so sorry. So a blind spot for me in my whole life has honestly been anti-Semitism, because it was always so strange. And even growing up as an evangelical, growing up as an evangelical Christian, I didn't see a lot of it, because a lot of times when people refer to, and once again, I am not defending it. I am the last person to defend evangelical Christians, whatever. But people refer to evangelical Christians as being anti-Semitic. And I found generally, what they're talking about is the fact that they believe that Jewish people will go to hell, which is true, but they believe that for every other religion. That's not specific to Jewish people. I only remember like one time when I heard a preacher saying something about, he made a joke that I didn't understand at all. Well, it wasn't even a joke, but it was just an observation. He said that if you see a Jewish person standing in front of a building holding a can full of pencils. Come back a year later, he'll own the pencil company and the can company. And he said the Jew will make money. And I remember I was probably like 12 years old. I was like, what is he talking about? Like, what does that mean? I had no clue where he was going. And but honestly, that's the only specific time I remember hearing like an anti-Semitic trope growing up that way. But I don't always catch it. Like when I read that tweet, my first thought wasn't that they meant the Jews. I didn't think that. Like I really didn't until you said it. I was like, oh, but apparently a lot of people did. So like I do miss that from time to time. But with Green, you're right. This I wrote down two things. I don't know what to go to first. This is just stupid. But you were talking about the Kevin Sorbo, he posted this like, wait, we can control climate change with our actions, but not the weather. Stuff like this, shit is just rage bait. Like they know what they're doing. They're engaged with farming. They're trying
have
to get.
Right?
They do. They know, right?
The anti-climate change people have to know their lie. Like when I was growing up, I would have believed that a lot of them genuinely didn't believe the climate was changing. But like now, 20 years later,
right?
Having been able to witness the climate change before my eyes, it seems fundamentally implausible that anyone truly doesn't believe it's happening.
For any of you kids out there, October used to be cold. I know it's weird. It's odd. It's chilly at best. Like it was like you would need a jacket throughout October. It's like, but now
sometimes
it
snowed on Halloween when I was a kid.
That happened, and so now you can get December, light windbreaker. You're going to be perfectly fine. But the goalpost moving drives me insane, and Republicans do this shit all the time. I thought of two examples just when you were talking, and one of them was with adrenochrome. They have this wild conspiracy. For those of you who don't know, this is pervasive in QAnon a lot, where they say that Hollywood, Democrats, whoever you don't like, they are scaring children. And I don't even know if this is real, that whenever you get scared, you produce a hormone called adrenochrome. Once again, don't know if that's real or not. But they said that they'll scare the children and then kill them to harvest the adrenochrome and then use it to, prolong their life or whatever. And
I've never heard of this, TJ, but
really?
Have watched Monsters, Inc. And you recognize
sounds
that
a lot like
line.
Monsters, Inc. Yeah. And so they've been spreading this for a while now, and I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine posted this conspiracy theory chart and talking about how dangerous each one of them were, and the adrenochrome one was on there. And then this person who I've known for years, like 20 years probably, and she said, "Well, I don't know. I think the adrenochrome thing is real." I said, "No, it's not. Like, do you have any evidence? Just anything? Please show me any evidence you found outside of freedomeagle.net. That this could possibly exist." And she sent me an article. And the article was about the fact that, I think it's in South Korea, maybe some other places, where they take the foreskin of a baby and they pull out the stem cells from that foreskin, and they use those stem cells to create like a facial moisturizer. And I was like, that's not what I asked for. That's weird and it sounds, strange and all, but I asked for adrenochrome. And like, well, if they're doing that, I'm like, no, this happens all the time. It always happens whenever you pin these folks where they find something kind of, sort of tangentially related. If you squint, it might look like it, and say, that's my evidence. It goes with that. I had a guy, I was taking this, I posted a video about how Israel's an apartheid state. And the guy's response was, well, I don't like ethno-states, but I feel uncomfortable. I know, right? And he said, I feel uncomfortable opposing the only Jewish state. And I just put in quotes, I don't like ethno-states, but. That was my only response to it, because I think that was all I needed. And he says, well, are you rallying people to stand against all the, dozens of Muslim states out there? And I said, all right, if you can point out a Muslim ethno-state that only exists because of us, that would collapse without our support, and has support of all these American people, then I'll make a video. I'll make it just for you. And then his response was, well, Saudi Arabia is our number one, export for money. It's just like, that's not what I asked. That's not Saudi Arabia. Fine. Saudi Arabia will be perfectly fine without us. They can sell it to other people. And need I remind you, Well, if I say, hey, Saudi Arabia is a brutal dictatorship, what pushback am I going to get from that? Like 90% of Americans, like, yeah, we don't pretend. In fact, Saudi Arabia, to their credit, doesn't pretend to be anything other than a brutal dictatorship. Like, yeah, that's who we are. We're that. Israel, though, a huge pushback. There wouldn't be a massive support for people if I come out and say, yeah, of course I believe Saudi Arabia should be a a secular democracy. No one's going to stand against that. Millions of people were going to be upset if you say that about Israel, which is weird. But yeah, I don't know. Like the goalpost moving and Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is once again, I feel like I've been saying this, like maybe I'm just feeling depressed these last couple of days, but what's the fucking point of talking to a conservative? Like, what is the point now? Right? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is in Congress. She is a close confidant of some of the most powerful Republicans in the country. I saw an interview just before we started the show. I don't know who this guy was, but he was on Piers Morgan, and he was talking with Dan Crenshaw. And he was saying, listen, the Republican Party is trying to pretend that they're the same Republican Party of 2016, where like Donald Trump came into office and he brought along, like, say what you want about them, but respectable people, at least in politics. He brought along Mike Pence, he brought along Mattis, he had people that Mike Pompeo, just people who were in positions like, yeah, they were ghouls, but they were serious folks. It's not like that anymore. Now he's surrounded by the Matt Gaetz and Laura Loomer. Like these are much worse, and they're trying to act like that's not the case. And what am I supposed to do? It's like, yeah, Donald Trump thinks Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good person to talk to about policy. And if that's not weird to you, I don't know what to say. I just can't. I don't know where to go from here.
So to loop this back to what we just said, first of all, I wanted to just say the Saudi Arabia. I'm right with you with the Saudi Arabia thing. It's like that's a different situation. I also agree. I don't like our fucking buddy relationship with Saudi Arabia, but I don't see anyone fucking actually arguing that we should continue doing.
You won't find one.
Everyone on the ground level here agrees on that, bro.
Yep.
Like we don't have fucking people saying that we need to support Saudi Arabia.
Does the Saudi royal family have the right to defend itself? Nobody is saying that shit. It doesn't happen. Yeah.
Anyway, but to circle back to what we were saying before about how the media treats what Trump says as somehow equally valid.
Oh no!
And to a point, what Trump has said about immigration has an equal level of evidence behind it as what Marjorie Taylor Greene says about them controlling the weather.
Yes.
There is an equal amount of evidence that people are controlling these hurricanes as there is that immigrants are causing a crime wave in the United States. Equal amount of evidence to support both. And if you disagree with me, go ahead and fucking look it up and bring me that evidence. Because like TJ was just saying, I've asked people many, many fucking times, and what they do is they come back with a news story about an immigrant committing a crime. And that is not fucking evidence of an overall trend that immigrants are causing in rising crime rates. In fact, crime rates ain't even fucking rising. So, I don't know. You look at the fucking CBO, it says, oh, yeah, they're going to reduce our deficit by nearly $1 trillion. Just the illegal immigrants who have come over during the Biden administration reduced the deficit by $1 trillion. That's the nonpartisan congressional fucking budget office. There is no evidence they economically hurt us. There's no evidence they hurt us with crime. I think 87% of all fentanyl is smuggled by U.S. citizens. There is an equal amount of evidence that Trump's claims about immigrants are true as Marjorie Taylor Greene's claims about hurricanes are true. But one of them is treated as a clown who gets joked off the stage, which is also harmful because they don't fucking take it seriously, despite the fact that she's a sitting goddamn congressman who will win re-election every fucking time that she runs. And that's treated as a clown show that we can just ignore because, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene's a clown. But Trump's claims are treated seriously, and we're going to acknowledge them as if they are real, not ignore them like we should. Or actually, we shouldn't ignore them. We should just say they're wrong. It's very frustrating. You're right. It's like, why even bother talking to Republicans? It is frustrating as hell. If we're talking to Milton Friedman, he's a fucking conservative that put together some very reasonable fucking arguments for conservative policy. I could talk to that kind of Republican all fucking day. Unfortunately, they don't exist in the Republican Party anymore because anyone who was putting forth reasonable arguments has clearly identified Trump as a fucking idiot. And would anyone who is reasonable would not vote for him.
That is God, that thing about them shit. What's gonna fuck it again? I was gonna say I keep losing track of my thoughts here, but oh yeah, another thing that you said about how they switch the subject of the thing. Voter fraud. They do the exact same thing. They did with voter fraud. They will say there were millions of illegal ballots, dead people voted across. Like, okay, all right, where's your evidence of this? Here is an affidavit from a state court in, Arizona where some lady said, she's like, what? This is it? This is what you have? And with convictions, there's like 9 convictions for voter fraud. And then I see this happen on television, and I can't believe reporters walk into it because the statement they'll say, they'll have like Ted Cruz on there that was like, all right, well, there was no voter fraud. And he's got him. He goes, oh, you're telling me there was no voter fraud at all? And it's like, no, of course. Like, I'm sure there was a few instances of it. And it's like they pretend that there was some sort of mass conspiracy of millions of fake ballots or non-citizens voting in federal elections. No proof for it at all. Doesn't matter. And if you ask for the proof, they give you like one random story or some shit. Did you see that lady who went to jail for 9 years for tampering with voter evidence? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah. Oh, I should pull that up when we do the next segment or whatever. But her name was Tina Peters, I think, and she was in, I forget which state she was in, but she was trying to prove that Mike Lindell was right, that there was people would put in their votes into a voting machine and that the machine would flip their ballots to someone else. And I think she got the help from someone who worked on the machines to like let her get into the vote, like the secure voting information and pull it out or whatever. And like the judge eviscerated her, gave her 9 years in prison for it. But she was defiant the entire time, and he just ripped her a new one. So I should play that for the next clip. But I don't know. It is just exhausting what the Republicans are going through.
Yeah. All right. Let's address some comments, and then we'll wrap up this show with some election horse race chatter. Because there were a couple good ones that I wanted to address. What was it? Let's just go through some of them. Hugh Jass, we love you, Hugh. This is why it doesn't make sense to put social issues on the left-right axis. It's more than a libertarian versus authoritarian thing. Left-right should be about prioritizing human rights versus business. I do.
Getting way too complex there, Hugh. Getting way too.
Yeah, because I do think that there is authoritarian, libertarian axis, which is basically ignored in American politics. Like that just doesn't really exist. It's all about the same. Would you agree with that, TJ?
Yes.
I mean, I guess like Donald Trump and what he is proposing in his second term is a radically more authoritarian stance, but going from Obama to Trump to Biden, I can't tell you which one of them is more authoritarian than the other in their presidencies. Would you disagree with that?
I think Trump would be more authoritarian. Like, I mean, I would have a hard time, even just for the deportations alone. I think would put or the threat
what he's proposing in this presidency. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm saying Trump's first term. I can't argue it was any more authoritarian or less authoritarian than Obama or Biden,
Oh, I see. Yeah. In general, the United States is authoritarian. I mean, it is a fascist police state, so we just.
But most countries are authoritarian now.
Yeah.
Doesn't suck.
Fair.
So Kyle was saying, for examples of the way the Democrats have moved left, housing rights, criminal justice reform, maybe ending or restricting qualified immunity, they've done none of those things. Like, like I can see the argument that like that has been a left shift in democratic discourse, but there has been no criminal justice reform. There has been no restrictions or ending of qualified immunity. Like that just isn't the Democratic Party has opposed those things. Like again, like these are things like you can complain about, but they aren't like real policies that Democrats actually employ. Kyle says, in California, we've been working on a drug rehabilitation rather than criminalization. I guess that is something that Democrats have shifted on over the past 20 years or so. But if you're really getting pissed off about that, like, again, the evidence is against you. You're muted, TJ, or you're not muted. You are. Your mic might be. Oh no, you are muted.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they give out free needles. Can you believe that? They'll get really upset about that. It's just going insane.
Yeah. So yeah, I again, these are like marginal. Like these are not reasons to switch your party
But
affiliation.
none of them are. Like none of them are. Like it is just like even fucking immigration. Like marginal difference between the two parties that we've seen over the last 8 years. And I guess both sides do get. I did the both sides thing. They get pretty amped up, but because Trump is worse on it, but only slightly. And honestly, it is the social stuff that he does with like the making it socially acceptable to just like, yep, those folks got to go. Those legal residents in the United States, we need to get them the fuck out of here. That's new. That's something I've never seen. I'm boldly saying that out loud, not even hiding behind the.
Both parties have moved right on immigration. Like both of them have moved right. Like I guess I'm pretty radical and always have been when it comes to immigration. But so like I haven't experienced that. But like if you were like a Reagan level immigration person, both parties have moved radically to the right of you.
All right, I have. Oh, if you had another one, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right, so this is Tina Peters. She's I'm gonna show a statement she made to the judge. There was one I was looking for I couldn't find, but I think that's in that statement she was telling the judge that she knew what she was doing. Actually, you know what? I'll still look for it. I'm gonna share another one here. Give me 1 second here, John. Sorry. This is the judge who's reading her sentence after he found her guilty of vote tampering. A Republican, of course. She was working along with what's his name, the pillow guy.
Oh, that fucking guy.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So let's get this bad boy going here.
I'm convinced you would do it all over again if you could. You're as defiant as a defendant as this court has ever seen. You don't have those histories of drug and alcohol abuse. There's no lifetime of trauma, not even close to the type of mitigating circumstances I would see from many folks who sit in that chair. No, to the contrary, Ms. Peters, you are a privileged person. You are as privileged as they come. And you use that privilege to obtain power, a following, and fame. And to be sure, there's no doubt in my mind that that is exactly what you wanted, and it defies all sense of common sense to believe when you suggested to me a few moments ago that you didn't want this attention. No, you crave it, ma'am. And there is no one in this courtroom who would consider that to be anything other than the absolute truth. But to get to the point of what it is that you did here, it's my impression distinctly that you never took your job of clerking particularly seriously. You didn't complete the certification. One scandal after another followed you in your time as the clerk. And ultimately, it was a belief that the echo chamber in which you live couldn't be wrong, among other things, that led you to do what you did here. This thought process, unfortunately, seems to consume so many in our country, regardless of race, gender, political affiliation, or the like, that what it is we hear and think can't possibly be wrong. There are many things in my mind that are crystal clear about this case. You are no hero, you abused your position, and you're a charlatan who used and is still using your prior position in office to peddle a snake oil that's been proven to be junk time and time again. In your world, it's all about you. But at bottom, this case was about your corrupt conduct and how no one is above the law. No one in this country has absolute power. Your position as a clerk and recorder, a constitutional position, does not provide you with a means by which to do your own investigation, to not listen to the...
All right, I found the clip I was talking about here, but I loved seeing that. I'm so sick and fucking tired of having to talk about 2020 and the voter fraud when it gets excoriated in court every single time. And once again, we got to act like these are rational people with whom we have a reasonable disagreement. This is her talking to the judge before he sent her to jail. Let's get this up here. And he's you guys will recognize this. This is how every interaction with these folks go.
In the machine, whatever it tabulates is whatever it tabulates.
No, it doesn't. It changes.
You're not letting me finish.
Okay,
Whatever
please.
it tabulates is whatever it tabulates. My hand vote, my ballot remains the same. They counted those ballots.
I
Did they
understand.
not?
I understand what you're saying,
Did
Your
they
Honor.
count the ballots?
No, the ballot images were changed, and that's what the total shows. Okay, I'll move off of this because I can see that I would encourage to read the report number 3.
I've read them, ma'am.
You've read all of them?
I've read those reports. They were given to me at some point, I believe.
Good, good. Well, so you know what I'm saying is true. All right, let me move on. It's not funny. My life is on the line here, Your Honor.
No, you're the one who's making this allegation that, one,
It's
I think
not
it's
an
funny,
allegation.
and two, that I know it's true. You're saying that as if I believe you, and I did not say that.
Okay.
That is
All
why
right.
I made the sound, because it's insulting to me for you to just put that in a record in front of all of these people that I believe something to be true.
Okay, and I apologize for that, Your Honor. That wasn't my intent. I do apologize.
The undeserved entitlement these folks have. It is the breathtaking fucking arrogance. Can you imagine being on trial and telling the judge, well, I recommend you read the materials of the court case. Like, to say that fucking out loud. I'm so glad to see this. I wish this was plastered everywhere. Like, the more people that see this, the better. Like, yeah, listen, folks, this is what happens whenever you start tampering with voting materials. It's a federal crime. Like, you will go to jail for it for a long time. I don't know. You hadn't run across that?
I hadn't run across that. No. I will say I don't love hearing a judge moralize like that.
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck 'em. If there's ever a time, right?
But I very much understand the emotions he's going through, having to deal with that kind of fucking crap.
Yes.
Because it isn't just a normal fucking crazy conservative. It is like the Karen of conservatives. Like that. It is such a morally grandstand. Like, oh, my life is on the line, Your Honor. I'm just a little old lady. Like, oh my God! Like, go fuck yourself.
Look them up, John. The clips are great because he goes on talking about how, I've seen people who came in here from horrible backgrounds and they didn't have a shot in life. They certainly didn't have 5 lawyers working with them and flying on jets back and forth in between court cases. So I don't feel any sympathy for you. It's like, no, I just think it's like things either happened or they did not. We can't just keep letting people live in this false reality and pretending it's acceptable. Like, it's going to take us a generation to get rid of this, and the sooner we do it, the better.
But
But
people aren't going to believe us, TJ. Like,
That
our
this
grandkids
happened?
aren't going to believe us. That like it's going to be
well,
whitewashed.
no, they're going to see videos of Trump. The videos will do all the work for us. Like, the fact that Donald Trump, I'm glad that it was on video so that posterity be like, oh, they're going to be so confused, John. 100 years from now, people will be like, what the fuck was going on? What were these folks thinking? People listening 100 years from now, we're thinking the same thing. Like, at this moment in the past, believe me, we are just as confused that this happened. But
The one other thing I want to say about that clip is that it's a very clear demonstration of these people. They truly believe
They
down
do.
in the courts an unfalsifiable claim that everyone else secretly believes what they do. She just said it right there. You know it to be true. She, down to her fucking core, believes that the judge thinks she's telling the truth and that actually he's just presenting bias and punishing her unjustly. She believes that in her heart of hearts, TJ.
I know. She's like, well, the deep state must have gotten to you, Your Honor. I get it. I understand. We joke all the time, they do live in a false reality. And there's just nothing you can do at that point. When everything you point to, you're like, okay, well, this court shot it down. These Trump-appointed judges shot it down. There's no evidence anywhere. They did recounts and audits in Arizona and Georgia. Both of them said Biden won. Like, what do you guys want? Like, at what point, what do you want now? And it's just there's no convincing them when they refuse to learn, which is, I guess that's part of being a conservative. I think about it.
How many times have you heard a conservative say something along the lines of, I'm just speaking what everybody knows to be true and they're too afraid to say?
Yeah.
Because that is you distill the entire current conservative ideology down to one sentence, and it is that.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly what I was like. Oh, everyone knows that the immigrants are coming here and making life worse. Everyone knows that the people of Springfield, Ohio are worse off. You can put whatever numbers in front of me that you want. You can show whatever evidence. It doesn't matter. You and I both know that the people of Springfield, Ohio are worse off because there's a bunch of Haitians running around there. They just believe it to be true, and there's nothing they can do. Same with the trans people. You and I both know that men are men and women are women. That's the entire basis of their argument. And they will pretend that there are other arguments being made, but they don't actually care about them, because no matter how many times you cut off the limbs of those other arguments, they retreat back to, come on, both you and I know this is the truth, bro. Like, you're not one of them. You don't have to pretend. You're like me, right?
John, I was just thinking with that, though, I kind of get it. Because you ever been in a meeting at work and there's like a glaringly obvious problem that everyone is dancing around and no one is saying it out loud because it's uncomfortable. And then you're like, oh, hey, this is obviously the problem. Everyone knows this, right? Like none of us are like, it's uncomfortable, it's weird, it's awkward, but we all know this is true. I really enjoy doing that. I love it.
That is a thing that does happen.
That's what I'm saying.
The thing, it's not happening when these people say it.
Right, but my thing is, what I'm saying is that whenever I say that, I am 1,000,000,000% convinced that everyone knows it. Like, you can see it in their eyes. You're like, oh, now, I don't have any evidence of this. We didn't talk about it before, but I spent 5 minutes looking at the proposal and the math, and I was like, okay, this is the problem, but no one wants to say it because it's going to offend that guy over there. And it's kind of funny when it happens because, the tension is broken. If I thought that, once again, like when I'm in that phrase, you can't convince, it would take a lot of convincing for me to like, no, that's actually not the problem. I would be floored. But I don't know. So I do kind of know that feeling.
Here's the difference between us and them, PJ. Because I do that all the fucking time.
Right, it's great.
I have pissed off quite a few people at work for doing that sort of thing. And the thing is, when I do that, I make goddamn sure.
Well,
I'm not going out on a limb and just saying, oh, well, everyone must agree with me. I'm not going to look at the evidence. I'm just going to, they must believe me. Like that's not what I do. I dot my I's and cross my fucking T's before making that kind of play.
That is the difference. Although a lot of times it is just gut feeling. It's just like, okay, come on. You guys aren't stupid. You know what's going on here. But the difference also is that after 4 years, I still wouldn't be saying it. I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I misread that. I guess that was my bad. I must have been correct by that. What did I say? Don't you mean the Haitians are running around Springfield eating the cats and dogs? That's when I knew it was over for Trump. I think we talked about the debate. I was like, oh, it's done. That is like, you're never going to live that shit down. All right, we only got about 20 minutes left.
And that's an excellent segue.
Yes.
Last segment. What's going on with this election?
Oh, boy. So yesterday, John and I were talking about an amazing change in the polls that's been going on. And it's about senior citizens. Like, Kamala Harris might be the first Democrat to win senior voters 65 and over since Al Gore in 2000. And they found, like in a recent CNN SSRS poll out this week, that Harris is leading Trump 50% to 46% amongst senior voters. The survey is not an outlier. The average poll has Harris up by 3 points over Trump among seniors. And like, this is a market turnaround from before Biden dropped out of the race in July. And from the final estimates of 2020, both the polling average from earlier this year and the post-election findings from 2020 had Trump up by 4 points over Biden among seniors who were 65 and older. So crazy, like, honestly crazy to me that this is even close. Like, the fact I would have, if I hadn't have read that and then checked all the polls on this, because I hadn't heard anything about this. This is my first time hearing the fact that what's strange about this too is 65 and older is slightly toward Harris in most polls, but between 50 and 64, heavily for Trump. And so, that's just kind of a weird break right there. But the fact that older voters were more likely to vote for Harris than Biden was very odd to me. I don't know if you saw that. Biden was trailing with seniors, but Harris has gone up like an 8-point swing. I think it's over. I mean over, but whatever. Like I've never been more confident that Harris is going to win when I saw that, because I just can't foresee a reality in which Kamala Harris wins the senior vote, or even like splits it, in which she loses. Because like they usually vote. They've voted Republicans the last 25 years.
It's so I've been having some anxiety attacks this week. Not seriously. I have them previously, but I haven't seriously had them this week about this yet. But it's been a bad week in the polls for Harris, and we're approaching the point where mean regression becomes impossible. Where like, hey, whoever wins the last news cycle, that's the last news cycle there is before the election. And if it was this week, we'd be in a this is a positive Trump cycle. I mean, looking at the last 7 days, and I'll share our polling data here. Where the hell are we? So I agree with you. Like, if she wins seniors, it's kind of hard to imagine her losing. But the problem is the swing states, right? Like, it's the electoral college advantage is so massive for Trump. Like, this is if she wins the national vote by between 1 and 2 points, she only has a 27% chance of winning the election. Like, that is the insanity that we are experiencing here with the electoral college. And that's why it's so fucking scary. If this was a national popular vote, TJ, I'd be right fucking with you. I'd be like, it's virtually impossible for her to lose. But with the electoral college, that's not the case. And like, if we look at polling in the blue wall states, they're moving in the wrong direction right now. With the section of Pennsylvania, and I said, where Pennsylvania goes, the election will go. I did a little math, and that's not entirely true. Like, this is the state of the race as it currently is with the polls. We have a slight lead here. But if she loses one of these blue wall states, any one of them, and Trump retains North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona, she loses the race even if she wins Pennsylvania. And that, like, even if she loses Nevada here, is that... Oh, she wins. She wins if she loses Nevada and wins PA. So there's that. But like any other of the states, if she loses any of the blue wall states, it's over for her. And that is a scary proposition. When, oh shit, I was just showing an interactive map, but it was on a different tab, so it wasn't shown on the broadcast here. So apologies for that. You were probably very confused. But all of these, they are moving Republican, and that's not good at all. I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared, and the thing that I've been thinking a lot about, and this is just a total, like, John is complaining. I'm having a little bit of a feminine emotional reaction. Is that I don't believe Republicans when they say that they actually believe Kamala Harris is some threat to America.
No.
Like, I don't, like, the way I feel about Donald Trump, which is very fucking verified in exactly what he is telling me he's going to do. I'm terrified of it. I do not think that I think very bad things will happen to this country if he actually is able to deport 11 fucking million people. I hope that he's incompetent enough, that he's incapable of doing what he says he will. But if he deports 11 million people, that's going to have massively terrible effects for everyone in this country. And I don't believe Republicans, if they seem to think that Kamala Harris will be as bad for this country as I think Donald Trump will be, just based on what they're saying. If they just enact the things that they're saying they're going to do, Kamala Harris, at worst, will be 4 more years of what we just had, which wasn't all that fucking bad. Like it wasn't. It was great. I fucking hate Joe Biden, and I have to admit that we're looking at the rest of the world. We did a pretty damn good job. And I hate to fucking say that. That's how I know you can't be fucking, like, serious about it. It pisses me off, TJ. It's such asymmetrical fucking warfare. It is God, it's frustrating.
No, well, when Republicans say it'll be the end of the world, it'll mean that maybe rich people might get taxed a little bit more. Maybe I won't be allowed to burn trans people at the stake. It's just like stuff that doesn't fucking matter at all. And so they've been hyperbolic. They were the folks behind the Satanic Panic. They're the folks behind the book bannings and shit. They're hysterical folks. I just want to say, I like what TJ said better. John is making me nervous. Yeah, John, stop scaring the poor folks that that Donald Trump's going to win the election. So, John, what I wanted to mention was that you were talking about the blue wall. And so I got to thinking while you were going there, I was checking the maps because I had a suspicion on this, and I was correct about, because you said like Pennsylvania is kind of like this, the keystone state is the key to the election. I think I saw that Harris has like an 8% chance of winning the election if she loses Pennsylvania, and Trump has like a 14% chance of winning the election, lose Pennsylvania. So yeah, whoever wins Pennsylvania has a massive advantage. And so I started looking at like your possibilities and everything, because if they lose Pennsylvania, if Harris loses Pennsylvania, that part of the blue wall, what would she have to win? And I was wondering, when is the last time that Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan voted differently? And 1976. At 1976 is the last time that you had any separation between those two states. Last time they all went blue. For Trump, they all went red. They both went blue for Obama, and the trend goes back. What's that? To 48 years on that. So if Pennsylvania is solidly blue, it's a very good indicator that Wisconsin and Michigan will go blue as well. Not a guarantee.
TJ, the problem is that logic. And by the way, Heather, I do have some like fun numbers for you that are going to make you feel better, and they are coming. So just hang on. But I have to make the negative case first, because what you're saying goes both ways. Like, yeah, if Pennsylvania is solid, okay, then the rest of them are going to follow. But the rest of them are just as solidly going the other way, and they are still leaning blue. But they're moving in the opposite direction that Pennsylvania is. So, like, yes, polling errors correlate. And that is the reason, by the way, and I've said this on the show before, that's the reason you had, like, the New York Times in 2016 saying there's, like, a 99% Hillary was going to win, because they didn't factor in the fact that the polling errors correlate. And if you don't do that, the numbers said it was a Hillary lock. But, like, if you take into consideration that, like, if the polling errors all go in the same direction, which they usually do, in fact, there is a 40% chance that every swing state goes one way. Like that is like 40% of the time, every single swing state will go to either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. So, like, that'll happen. But, like, you can make the argument going both ways there, TJ, that you just made. You can make the same argument that Pennsylvania's polls are wrong and it's actually going to swing red, because the others are going to as well. Like,
true.
It's scary. But to give the optimistic data, so there is a guy on Twitter named Christopher Bowsey. Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think so.
So he's very big into looking at early voting as an indicator of how the election is going to go. And in 2020, he was pretty like gosh darn fucking accurate with it. And in 2022, he was pretty gosh darn fucking accurate with it again. And he's been looking at the early voting trends in these swing states. So I want to just show this to people here, because this will give you, this will make you feel a little bit better. It made me feel a little bit better. So here, for example, is this is Florida, right? If we look, this is 2020, this is 2022, this is 2024. Democrats are outpacing their early voting as they were in 2020 and 2022. Republicans are lower than they were in 2020 and 2022. And this is a trend that we are seeing across the board in these swing states. In Pennsylvania, it's the same fucking thing. Which one is, I think this is Michigan. In Michigan, and again, also just Democrats trouncing Republicans, which we expect them to outperform in early voting, but they are outperforming by a larger margin than they have in the last two elections. So Democrats more early voting than in both years previous. Republicans, they have more early voting in Michigan than they did in 2022, but not in 2020. And we are seeing this across the board in all of the swing states. We're seeing the same thing happen in Florida. This is
Yikes. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's a bloodbath.
This is Pennsylvania here, where you see the massive advantage in early voting in Pennsylvania. And by the way, just so you guys are aware, Pennsylvania counts the early votes last.
John, I was right about to say, I remember this because in 2016, Pennsylvania was the state that kicked off the hysterics is like, well, Trump was losing in the last night and he's all of a sudden winning in the morning. It's like, yeah, they've talked about this for a long time. They said, hey, we should count these votes first so we don't have to do this thing where we wait until the night. And Republicans don't want it because they actually want this shit. They want the confusion afterward. But Republicans could solve this problem. Like this problem they bitch about, like we should have election day, not election week. They could solve this by counting the votes as they come in, like a sane person would, but they won't because they want the controversy.
Exactly, it's intentional. It is. It is the
100%.
Republican state legislator of Pennsylvania that makes this happen. I know this. I live here, but look, this is maybe the single thing that is keeping me sane because. If you remember, in 2020, Trump was literally telling people,
"It's funny, I know.
Vote, do not do mail-in voting. Do not do these things." And this was his fucking number. He has half as many Republicans doing early voting in Pennsylvania as 2020, and Democrats have doubled their number.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, John, because now Trump is saying go out and do it, and only half of them are doing it. That's a very good point. Yeah,
It really makes
that's an excellent
confident
point
that the polls are going to go. The polling error must, if this is the difference in early voting, and the polling error in 2020 went Republican, right? If we are this much outperforming Republicans relative to 2020 in early voting, and you would have a reasonable argument to be made that we shouldn't be as much as 2020 because Trump is telling his voters to go out there and vote early. It indicates to me a lack of voter enthusiasm among the Republican base, an extreme amount of voter enthusiasm among the Democratic base, because again, not only are Republicans underperforming, but the Democrats are overperforming, which means they are more motivated to keep Trump out of office than they were to get Trump out of office. So that to me is all very encouraging, and I was always confident Kamala was going to win Pennsylvania. I am now more confident Kamala is going to win Pennsylvania. I'm just a little more iffy on the other blue wall states than I previously was.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is. I don't know. Yeah, this is one of those things where, come on, we all know this is true, right? I'm kind of doing this right now, but the vibes are just off with the Trump campaign this year. They're just off. They're nowhere near as good as 2016. I would say it's worse than 2020. That, I hate to do the Trump thing of pointing to the crowd sizes, but you'll see he's speaking to half-empty arenas. The low early voting when Trump and Vance are telling people to go out and early vote is a good sign. It's just, I don't know, the Trump fatigue set in. He's running president. He's been running for president for 10 years now. And, it's his third time around. He sounds worse and worse every day. Like, he doesn't have the same spark. I think he thinks he's going to lose. He just doesn't have the energy that he has anymore. And I'm glad to see that it's being reflected. Those were good numbers for the early voting.
Yeah, and to put Florida, so the mail-in ballots in Florida, Democrats are beating Republicans about 1 million to 880,000.
Oh, close.
And there have been more mail-in ballot requests. They continue to increase the mail-in ballot requests in total. So
oh my God, getting trounced all over the place. That's so great. I love it.
Florida is definitely like the Lucy's holding the football for us. It's like, oh,
I know.
Florida's in play this year. No, it's not. But I do think that it's in play this year.
I'm picking it. I'm going to pick it for it to go blue. Why the hell not, right? Why the hell not?
Here's the thing. Like, if she wins Florida, again, they'll still claim cry foul,
fraud,
or
yeah,
whatever,
of course.
but no one will fucking that Ron DeSantis cheated for Kamala Harris. Are you really going to?
He's a rhino now. They turn on him just like that. There's no honor among thieves. But I do honestly. This is my lib coming out here, but to bring the country together is not just to squash this. If Harris wins 340 electoral votes, okay, we're done. There's no conversation to have here. Like the more solid the victory is, and the quicker. And if Florida goes blue, done. We can just call it a night. It's over. There's no coming back from that. It's wishful thinking, sure, but why not? You know, who's going to stop us?
But TJ, what's really going to happen? What's really going to happen?
Oh, I don't know. No.
This is you know, like the fucking Batman quote, like, this isn't the hero that we need right now, this is the hero that we deserve. This isn't the outcome that we need right now, but it is the outcome we deserve. 270 to 270.
Oh, you know, so wait, that's not right. It's 2, because that's 540. That's not it's 538. So it'd be like 269.
Yeah, 269. Yeah, you're right. My bad.
But
you need 270 to win. That's
you're right.
Yeah, my bad.
So for those of you wondering, that can't happen. Wild system, right? Like, this is a ridiculous system. First of all, the Electoral College, nothing's stopping us from making it an odd number. Nothing. Well, that's not true. I guess it's counted on based how many representatives we have. We have 100 senators and 435 representatives and 3 for DC. We could give DC 4, just like whatever. Just like, what's stopping us from doing this? Make it an odd number so this can't happen. But the founding,
get Puerto Rico 1.
Get Puerto Rico. Oh, no, we can't have that, because that's like. But if there is a tie, the presidency goes to the House of Representatives, which is controlled by the Republicans, which means the Republicans will get the president. However, the vice presidency goes to the Senate, because this is a brilliant system, right? Like, this is like the Senate would give us Tim Walz. Tim Walz would be the vice president. So yeah.
If the House of Representatives tied and it goes to, that, honestly, that very small chance of happening thing is my favorite outcome. That is the one I'm rooting for the most.
The world's ending. We might as well have fun, right? We might as well just have a Trump Waltz president and vice president. Like, let's just roll with it. But what's that? If it's tied 269, so the election goes to Congress. Yep. And there's a real possibility Trump could be president. Oh, that's what we were just talking about. Holy shit. We were just talking about that. Yep. And then we reward Trump with free unlimited KFC. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we get he's let him have his fun. Oh my God, look at that. 8:35 on the dot. This is where we used to do our bumper. How does our bumper work with no guest?
I don't know. We're just gonna wing it here, TJ. Like, we've won this entire episode. I actually think this has been a good episode.
It has. I'm shocked. Folks, I did not have my A game tonight. You guys, I was dropping my thing, and I kept losing my plays and everything. John kind of carried the show today, but it was pretty good. I had a good time. It went way better than I thought it would. I thought we'd be sputtering around like the 8 p.m. mark. Oh man, what are we going to talk about? But
TJ, we've been doing this for like over a year now. Like,
I know, right?
It's old hat. You know, it's practice makes perfect.
It's muscle memory. We got it. We got it.
Let's close this out. All right, guys, you made it to the end of the video. Once again, go you. You are our favorite viewer, especially if you've liked and subscribed. It's just me and TJ here this week. We'll have a guest here again next week, and they will tell you where to find them. But this week, TJ, let's just close it out.
Let's just do it. You know what? I really appreciate those of you, the conservatives who hate watch. Your comments are very funny to me. Very funny. Not insightful, not clever, not thoughtful, not informative anyway, but they do make me laugh. So keep up the great work, folks. We really appreciate it. All right. Man, good show. Good show. That was